Welcome to the Parkland Report. I'm Stephanie Stewart, Vice President for Communications and External Affairs at Parkland College and your host for today. The Parkland Report is the show where we talk to the people making things happen here at the college. Today I have two guests to talk to you. Vice President Nancy Sutton, who is over our academic services, as well as Vice President Mike Trame. But first we have Dr. Sutton on the set. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So Dr. Sutton, can you talk about academic services? What all is underneath that umbrella here at Parkland?
Sure. Under academic services, we have our three main academic divisions, which is health professions, career and technology, and also arts and sciences. Plus we have the Learning Commons, which is a pseudo division that provides academic support for students as well as handles our instructional technology and provides the library services.
That's great. We're going to come back to those Learning Commons at the end of the show, or the end of our segment. But first I want to talk a little bit about academics at Parkland. And one of the things I think is most interesting over the last few years is just all of the different ways and the modes of instruction, as they're called, that students can access their courses. So can you give us kind of that 50,000-foot view of what those are?
So prior to the spring of 2020, classes were offered in a face-to-face mode on campus, as well as an online mode, which we had been doing for many years. Parkland was one of the initial colleges in the state of Illinois to offer online classes. And then we had a hybrid model, which was you come to campus for some part of the class, but you also do some online work. As everyone knows, something happened in the spring of 2020 that caused us to go totally remote with everything. So all of our faculty very quickly learned to take all of their curriculum and their coursework online. From that, we've learned how to do it. And so now, coming back from the pandemic, we also offer additional modes, which are synchronous online, where the students may meet together at the same time online, as well as we've rounded out what we call flexible technology, which is the opportunity for students who are in an on-campus section to attend remotely if things happen in life. And so our faculty have really been working to hone those skills, working with Teams. It was previously Zoom, now we use Microsoft Teams, addressing issues of how to reach out to students and engage them in ways remotely that we hadn't before, and put a lot of their material online, making it easier for students to access when life happens.
Yeah, I had the chance last fall to sit in on a couple of classes that at first I didn't realize they were using the flexible technology, and then they took a question from somebody on Teams and it was really seamless. And so it was very impressive to see how that's integrated itself into the classroom.
We've used some of the federal, what was called CARES money, to start to outfit more and more of our classrooms with this technology that has cameras that can roam the room, pick up when other students are talking, and we'll keep adding that. We'll keep expanding that ability for faculty to engage the students both on campus and online at the same time. And I think it'll provide a lot of opportunities for students who before might have had to step out of a class or withdraw because something happened in life. So the pandemic has taught us some things, and we're taking those lessons and we're trying to make those work for us. And it's exciting. For some faculty, it's a real change from the way they taught. Some classes it fits better than others, but all in all, we're finding ways to reach students. And those students are coming back and they really want that face-to-face interaction. Having the flexibility to be able to meet their faculty online is, I think, is a real plus.
That's great. Yeah, and faculty are really evolving the way that they're teaching in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways that I know you've been working on and that your team's been working on, in particular in manufacturing, but maybe in other areas in the future, is in competency-based education.
Yes.
What is that, and what might students expect in the years ahead with that?
So you'll hear the term CBE, which means competency-based education, and it really is changing the way we look at at outcomes in the class. So in a traditional class, you meet for 15 or 16 weeks, students do certain assignments, and at the end they get a grade for how well they have succeeded in those assignments, and they may pass on into the next class, but the question is, did they really learn and become competent in all of the skills they needed? Competency-based education flips the classroom around and says, what are the competencies we want the student to have? And it identifies very clearly what those competencies are, and students who come in, if they already have some of those, if they've mastered some, they may be able to skip that segment of the class and move on and move faster in something else. Where this works is we are doing it, we're working on this in manufacturing, welding, industrial technology, because employers help our faculty determine what are the competencies we need for people that come and work for us. And if we can take a 3 credit hour class that was packed with maybe 12, 15 different competencies, break that into smaller classes that maybe instead of 3 credit hours, they're 1 credit hour each. Someone who comes in and has some of the foundational competencies can receive credit for that without having to take the class and without paying the tuition. So this means that a student who has some experience in a certain area, some competencies, can accelerate their progression in the program at a lower cost, so they can finish it faster and it costs them less. And this is really important, especially for employers who already have entry-level workers who have some skills, and they can come here and they can gain more skills without having to sit through the part they may already know. We're doing this, we're piloting this hopefully in the spring, bringing it really full force next fall. We have a couple grants related to it. And we're doing it mostly in our manufacturing area right now, but the hope is to then spread it out further to our business training, our computer sciences. We'll look at eventually whether we can do it in the general education, the arts and science area, but this is something that you'll see in all of Illinois. It's a real plus for students. It provides access to students who might not otherwise have had the opportunity to take the classes because maybe their work schedule doesn't provide for it. It also allows for the hybrid model where a lot of what they do initially is online, and then they come into our labs to demonstrate the competencies, and it can lower the cost and the time to completion.
That's great. It sounds like a really great way to honor the experience that our students
Yes.
walk in with, because we have students that are very experienced in some
Yes.
instances, but they need the degree credential. You'd mentioned employers as part of competency-based education. So could you share maybe a little bit about how Parkland interfaces with employers in our career programs
Sure.
like manufacturing?
Sure. All of our career programs have an advisory council, and the members of that advisory council are the regional employers that we have. So depending on what area, like if it's in manufacturing, you're going to find that most of our manufacturing employers have someone sitting on our advisory council. And they meet with them at least once a year, if not twice a year. Our faculty meet with them, and they discuss what are the things that they need. What are they looking for in their employees? Where are the gaps and the skills that we need to emphasize more? And that helps our faculty develop and modify the curriculum as needed. And in the case of the competency-based education, we're actually looking at it statewide. We have a group of schools, community colleges, a consortium that actually is looking at this together, so that what our students learn at Parkland, they could actually take outside of Parkland's district if that's where life takes them. It doesn't help our students if what they learn limits them in the jobs that they can get. We really need to think a little wider than that. So we engage with our employers on a regular basis, and they're a vital part of building our curriculum.
Yeah, you mentioned the consortium, and there is a lot. I think manufacturing is a perfect example of a lot of collaboration happening, not just with employers, but with our community college colleagues, community partners, and all of that. So, and there have been some recent proposals out there of things we put out in the community, and then some brand new news about a new grant. So can you maybe show us the landscape of all the grants and activities that are happening that I know fall a lot in your responsibility?
So during the past year, we have been working with a grant from the Illinois Community College Board that was specifically for competency-based education. Parkland and one other community college in Illinois, Wren Lake, received the grant, and we have been working on developing the curriculum in the areas of welding and industrial technology. Last week, we received news that we had also received a grant from the Department of Labor. So this is a federal grant, and it's for a consortium of 7 community colleges that worked on this. Parkland is the lead college. And then we have 6 other colleges, Lincoln Land, Wren Lake, Shawnee, John A. Logan, John Wood, and Shawnee, and Illinois Valley. And so all of those are now working on this is a much larger grant that brings CBE into our curriculum. So CBE is all a thing now. There's hope that it's really going to open doors for a lot of our students in a lot of the areas of the state. So we'll be working with that grant for the next 4 years.
Do you want to maybe quantify how large the grant is, and
It's
maybe
it's a $5 million grant.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah, I'm still processing that in my mind. But yes, so we're the lead on the $5 million grant, and that includes a budget for each of the colleges. But then Parkland as the lead will have a grant manager, and we will provide the oversight of that grant. And it should, we're using it to build on equipment that we need. When you do CBE, you need to have a really modernized, outfitted lab, because the lab is the most important place where the students can come in when they need to demonstrate and practice the competencies. And so we're hoping that this grant will move forward with upgrading a lot of our equipment.
That's great. Dr. Sutton's underselling it a little bit. It's a major deal to get a grant like this from the U.S. Department of Labor. So we've tried before, but this is it's a major accomplishment for sure for Parkland leading the way.
I think humility is always the best way to go.
I'll brag for you. So one more thing. So we have lots of different ways that students can access their coursework. We're more flexible than ever, looking at competency-based education to help students sort of get ahead in that process. But the learning supports are such a critical part of student success. So in the last couple of years, we've really kind of reorganized and developed the Learning Commons. And so can we check in with our audience and share with them, once again, what that is and how it supports students in their courses?
So several years ago, our faculty actually sort of floated the idea that libraries are changing in terms of what they are, and the idea of trying to make the library the center of all types of support. We had other areas that were supporting students with different types of coaching and work towards assessment to help them reach college level, tutoring, a writing lab. A couple years ago, we started the process of moving all of that into the area that was housed by our library, now calling it the Learning Commons. So it really has become a hub of everything that a student could use to support them in the classroom, outside of the classroom. So it now holds the writing lab, a presentation center which helps students develop oral presentations, tutoring, both peer tutoring and specific tutoring with faculty is available. All of the assessment modules that help students prep for classes, in addition to computer literacy and competencies. That's been added. We have a computer technology center where we've now developed modules for students to learn how to use technology, how to use their laptop in classes. We offer all of those services free of charge to the students, and that's the key. The idea that we support our students with non-revenue generating things, so that Parkland makes a commitment. So when students sign up for a class here, we're there to help them with all those little extras. Now, students often don't have the time or want to take the time to do those extra things, so we're trying to create an environment that is conducive for them to come together, sometimes in cohorts, with teams, with faculty, to really help them through what they're doing in the classroom, give them the support that they need. And we expect to see that grow even more. So we have a lot of plans to continue to grow the Learning Commons as much as possible.
That's great. Over the pandemic, and now it's continued to evolve, the Learning Commons played a really key role in loanable technology.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about what's been done and what we're trying as a pilot now?
So at the time of the pandemic, we purchased many, many laptops and had them available to students. We're piloting the idea that in certain programs, students who do not have laptops could actually receive one for free, provided they participate in these computer literacy workshops and learn how to use the computer. And we have several grants where we've built this in, that students that are participants in programs that are funded by the grant will receive a laptop, they attend a workshop, their faculty work with them on how to use this, then they bring it to class, and they're able to engage with their course material through the technology. My hope would be that somewhere out in the future we're able to make sure that all of our students have the technology they need. Too many students come to class and they try to attend class on their phone or a tablet or a Chromebook, and those don't really mesh well with college work. And so we need to help our students make sure they have the technology and the access that can let them be successful. And along with providing flexible technology, if we want them to be able to engage with their faculty if they're not on campus, we need to make sure they have the tool to do it. So hopefully the pilots of these, we have about 3 of them now that we're working with. If those go well, then somewhere in the future we'll try to expand that to encompass all of our students.
That's great. Yeah, trying to make sure students have access
Yep.
to all the flexible means of technology and
Yeah.
coursework. Well, Dr. Sutton, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll have Vice President for Student Services, Dr. Mike Trame.
It's your time to create the future you want at Parkland College. Time to explore your path among 100+ degree and career programs. It's your time to do you. Enroll now at parkland.edu.
And welcome back to the Parkland Report. For the second segment today, we're talking with Vice President for Student Services, Dr. Mike Trame. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie.
So you have so many different areas in terms of under your umbrella and the ways that we support students. So could you give our audience just that high-level overview of everything in your neck of the woods?
That's a broad swath right there. So Student Services has the pleasure of working with students from the very beginning of their educational journey, that admissions and records piece and financial aid as they figure out how to pay and get enrolled in college, all the way through counseling and advising as they and those related services. Student engagement pieces like athletics and student life, and then keeping students safe, so our public safety department and those pieces. So, you add some placement in with the assessment center too. It's the full gamut of student supports.
Excellent. Well, we're going to cover little bits and pieces of each
All right.
of those. We were chatting before the segment was going to begin about the last time that you were here, and we talked all about pandemic response. So we want to maybe get that out of the way and just say, how is the campus operating these days, and maybe talk a little bit about some developments in our Wellness Center.
Perfect. Yeah, health and wellness is a chief part of our student life and our student engagement pieces and work with students. So the last 2 years has been predominantly COVID. So we did anything and everything from the initial move off campus with students to getting them back and plugged in virtually with classroom work to then what was the governor's executive order in the last pieces, which was the door checkers and the testing requirements as we were really trying to push the community through the pandemic bubble that they were facing. And so happy to say that we are back in a more regular college environment right now for our students, and but certainly that doesn't diminish the vigilance of our group in watching what's going on, especially COVID-wise. We've hired a new wellness coordinator who is really taking on that role and working with the public health department and going through those phases of monitoring and watching the latest developments. She'll be putting out information on new vaccines as they're made available to the students in the community. And so we're real happy to stay on top of that for the students, but not have that be the end-all be-all existence of our wellness program, because now there's other things for us to watch, like monkeypox is a big thing in the community right now, and public health is doing webinars and seminars for us on keeping our students safe from that aspect. Our wellness coordinators put some communication out already this year on that public health situation. And then we're constantly working on the normal ebb and flow of wellness in our community. So everything that students might need, from smoking cessation and sleep issues and benefits to their educational performance by working on those pieces, to work on like flu clinics and that kind of thing. As the winter drags on, we'll be in the throes of what I'm sure is another good flu season. And so we usually have a immunization clinic here on campus, and our folks work with that to help keep our students and employees safe. Great.
Yeah, well, thank you for your leadership through that whole pandemic. Mike and his team were working around the clock, many days, many hours, and a very commendable job in all of that.
One of the things that anything as big as a pandemic brings out is it really solidifies the teamwork of our group. And so it wasn't just the student services folks, it was your team on all the marketing and communications pieces, the leadership team on constant vigilance and decision making as new policy needed to be made and put out to the campus. So it was truly a group effort, and I think one that strengthens the leadership of the institution.
Great. Well, let's talk about some good news, moving away from illnesses into enrollment, because I know there's been a lot of discussion over the last 10 years just about enrollment declines for community colleges, but we have good news at Parkland this fall.
Yeah, fantastic news. So for the first time since the fall of 2010, fall-to-fall enrollment has gone up. So the first fall where we were ahead of the previous fall in enrollment since the 2010-2009 campaigns, so comparisons. So it's fantastic. The work of the admissions department and the marketing folks and the faculty who have been beating the bushes and promoting their programs and showing all the benefits of a Parkland education have really brought the students back out of the pandemic and back into the classroom here. And that's what we love doing best, is serving that community and that student body. And so the fact that we're up right now as compared to many of our peers who have not been able to experience that yet, we're just tickled pink about. So.
Yeah. I was in a meeting with you the other day, and you described it as it's not just a massive effort in one area.
Yeah.
It's a strong effort in many, many different areas and programs. I thought that was a great way to put it.
Yeah, we're seeing small increases in places like early college enrollment and dual credit, and in particular career and technical programs. So it took a lot of work and a lot of effort in all of those to produce 10 extra students here, 12 extra students here, that then accumulates into that larger enrollment gain for the institution. So yeah, it is certainly a village working on that issue for Parkland, and it's also a confidence in the community that I think is reassuring that we bring value to the community and people are excited about what we have to offer.
Absolutely. One interesting stream of enrollment from an international perspective that I got to see up close and personal coming back for some of our welcome back activities was actually our athletics programs and the students that we draw from around the world.
Yeah. Parkland has had such a fantastic athletics program for a long period of time that is competed at the highest level, that it draws the student body, and its reputation draws an athlete from the global community. So we have soccer players from the UK and from Japan, and we had a volleyball setter from New Zealand, and we have soccer players that come to us from the South America regions and the Central American regions. We've had basketball players and baseball players from Australia. So it truly is a global athletic marketplace for Parkland, and one that adds to the overall makeup of our student body. The more diverse perspectives and geographic approaches and places that we bring our students from, it just adds a richness to our student body, and one that I think all students benefit from, not just the athletics program.
Yeah, and our program's a destination because we win a lot.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, we've got 4 sports going right now in the fall, 3 that are in their championship seasons. You've got both the men's and women's soccer teams, which are ranked in the mid-teens, one at 14 in the women and 16 in the men, and they're both having very successful starts to their season. We've got the volleyball defending national champions, and they're sitting at number 5 right now, and just swept through a tournament out in Nevada this past week. And then our golf team has a split season. They play both fall and spring, and so they're doing their conference tournament their schedule this fall, and having good success there. They won a tournament a couple weeks ago, and then they'll go into their nationals play in the spring. So yeah, it's a fantastic time to be a Cobra. I encourage all the community to come out and support these athletes and watch some really good competitive young student athletes.
Yeah. Well, something else I wanted to cover that's been part of you building your team is public safety, and we have a really great new chief of police on campus that has a lot of experience in working with the community and working with students. So can you share a little bit about our new chief? Yeah,
Troy Daniels is our new chief, and he joined us this summer, and he brings a wealth of experience, the most of it in the Champaign Police Department, but also has some experience with the County Sheriff's Office. He achieved the rank of Deputy Chief in the Champaign Police Department, and for his long service, and he is known as a community builder. He's got trust and a reputation in the community for community policing and really an inclusivity and a work with the community instead of around the community. And I think that's important in an educational setting like Parkland. So we're so excited and honored to have Chief Daniels join us, and he's building his team in that kind of mindset and image around the Parkland Police Department. And we're so blessed to have them keeping our students safe, and they're a fully sworn police department, so they have all the powers of any other police department. they just really focus on the educational aspect of that policing, and unless they're forced not to, which doesn't happen often, but we're glad that they're there when it does. But yeah, I mean, from keeping our parking lots and things safe and dealing with things there to serving on some of our campus committees where it's all about student support and how do we bring those elements in for the tough things that our students face sometimes. We're really excited about having Chief Daniels join us. So.
Yeah, one of those committees I know where I've observed public safety and mental health services come together really for the benefit of students is the CART team.
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about what that team does and who's on the team?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie, for talking about that team. That team is vitally important, but operates almost exclusively behind the scenes at Parkland, so not a lot of folks get to see it. But CART stands for Care and Response Team. And so it's a place where anyone on campus that sees something that's out of the ordinary with a student or with a fellow classmate or with an employee can report to that team, and we'll evaluate that information to see if there is anything that needs to be done. It does have a threat assessment component, so if you remember back to serious events like Virginia Tech and some other things that these behavioral intervention teams, which is a predecessor of CART, kind of were born out of, we certainly look at those, but that's a small portion of what we do. The majority of our work is supporting our student body. So when a professor gets wind that a student is really struggling with something, let's say life circumstances or events, they'll refer that situation to the CART team, and then we proactively look at it with our core team members, which is some members of our counseling and mental health group, our public safety group, the dean of students, myself, and we put together a case-managed approach to do all things to support that student, whether they need resources in the community, whether they need Parkland resources, whether we can be an ear to lean on when they're going through tough times, or if we need to give the students a swift push in the right direction, which sometimes happens too. That's metaphorically what we need to do on occasion. So there are all those kinds of things. So it's really about, instead of throwing a student out of campus when they're having issues or behavior issues we see if there's a way we can help them navigate their educational attainment and not get them in a bind, whether it be from a conduct perspective or from a law enforcement perspective.
Yeah. One of the topics and supports really that we provide, but that you hear about nationally too, is mental health in particular, and just the great need that there is with all of the different, things happening in society that do lead back to that. And we offer mental health counseling for students. I think that's something people don't really know about.
Yeah, we are extremely fortunate that the administration long ago made a commitment to the mental well-being of their students and providing a robust opportunity to support our students' mental health. And we've been able to continue that through today's version of that, which is our Counseling Support Center. And that's located on the second floor of the U building, but we're staffed with licensed clinical counselors that can help students navigate short-term issues that they're going through, and then work through those crisis moments, spend some time with them, and then facilitate them getting a more long-term mental health approach to whatever is going on for them, so that again they can focus on their educational attainment and not just have to bail out of school when life gets hard or when mental health issues present themselves for our students. And that's a growing crisis for us right now in education. The number of students that need those services and our benefit from accessing those services is growing faster than maybe any other segment of our service population. And so we're very honored and fortunate for the work that the Dean of Counseling Services and our 4 licensed counselors are able to do on a daily basis. And the students of Parkland are extremely lucky to have them.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Trame.
Thank you.
Your team really does a holistic approach to Parkland students.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, that's it for this edition of the Parkland Report. We thank you for tuning in and learning about all of the new and innovative things that are happening both in our academic services and our student services. So we will see you next time.